All right, Broncos country, here it is. The full and complete 2023 NFL schedule. And right here is the Denver Broncos schedule for 2023. Now, what sticks out to me is the Broncos will have 4 primetime games, and their bye is at week 9, which is a perfect right in the middle point in the season. So that's right where teams like to have their bye week. So that's a really good bye for the Denver Broncos. So right off the bat, that's what I notice. So here we go. Let's break down each game individually and let's see where things stand after our schedule release. So, I already knew quite a few of these games ahead of time, just full disclosure on that. I was keeping up with leaks on Twitter, so quite a few of these I already knew about, including our week 1 game against the Raiders at home. But there's still quite a few that are a bit of a mystery and a surprise to me. So let's jump in, guys. So the first one, again, as I already said, I already knew about, which is week 1 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. It'll be Josh McDaniels going up against the Denver Broncos for the 3rd time as a head coach. It'll be Jimmy Garoppolo's Raiders debut, Davante Adams versus Pat Surtain, one of the most intense, hated rivalries in the entire NFL. And that's going to be filled with storyline, obviously. Sean Payton's Broncos debut. Lots of rich storyline here with this game against the Raiders. Again, guys, one of our historic rivalries in the NFL. Always a pleasure to go against the Raiders, always a displeasure to go against the Raiders at the same time. Raiders versus Broncos games are always intense, electric atmospheres, and the fact that the Broncos are opening at home against the Raiders, that is an absolutely huge advantage for us. And we actually have a second game at home as well, week 2 against the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell, the Commanders' starting quarterback, Jacoby Brissett also there. So realistically, if we play our cards right, Broncos country, I could very easily see us picking up 2 wins there against 2 teams that, needless to say, are expected to be amongst the bottom feeders in the NFL next year. So I'm really excited for these 2 games to open up. Now, we're also going to bookend with the Raiders. We're going to be at Las Vegas week 18 to close out the regular season. Now, this is the first time in a long time, I want to say even before Peyton Manning got here, that we're going to be closing out a game on the road to close out the season. Last time, I want to say maybe it was 2011 or sometime even before then. I legitimately cannot remember the last time that we had to end the regular season on the road. But as per custom, it will be a divisional game just like the rest of the NFL, and it will be on the road against the Raiders. Now, week 3 is where I feel like things are going to get a little bit challenging for us. We have to go on the road down to Miami to face off against Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. Now, there's also plenty of other storyline with this game as well. Mike McDaniel, of course, Dolphins head coach, is from Colorado, was a ball boy for the Denver Broncos at one point in time. Then Vic Fangio, of course, former Denver Broncos head coach. He is now the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins, as well as former Denver Broncos edge rusher Bradley Chubb also down there. So plenty of intrigue and plenty of storyline with this game as well. And the fact that we have to go down to Miami early in the season in September, that's always going to be a rough ask. It's going to be hot down there. It's going to be humid. So that may be a tough game for the Denver Broncos, especially considering how good the Miami Dolphins are expected to be this upcoming season. Of course, they'll have Tua back at quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of step forward he takes and continues to get better and better in his development. But still, man, this Miami game is going to be a big challenge. And then the next game as well, also on the road against the Chicago Bears, against Justin Fields, a young and upcoming Bears team that had the number 9 overall pick that selected Darnell Wright, more protection for Justin Fields. They brought in DJ Moore as part of that trade with the Chicago Bears to move as part of that trade with the Carolina Panthers, rather, to move the number 1 overall pick. So this Bears team, obviously very revamped, very, very refurbished. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Broncos match up against one of the more up-and-coming squads in the NFL. They're a young team. They have really good coaching, in my opinion, under Matt Eberflus. So it's going to be a real test for the Broncos on the road at Soldier Field against the Bears week 4. Now, week 5 is a game that has been highly anticipated for the Broncos, and it's one that probably should have been on prime time and really had a good chance to be our season opener, and that is New York Jets week 5 at home against the And that is New York Jets at home, Week 5. Nathaniel Hackett returns to Denver. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers, who for the past really 2 off seasons before Russell Wilson got here, there was heavy anticipation and talks that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a Denver Bronco. Nathaniel Hackett was hired here to pretty much lure Aaron Rodgers to town. Unfortunately, the Packers did not want to budge. So this is going to be Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett in Denver versus Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. This is going to be a big marquee matchup that, although it's not on prime time, I have to imagine this is going to be like America's Game of the Week in the 4:25 window or something like that. This is going to be a big matchup for the Denver Broncos against a New York Jets squad that is expected to be Super Bowl contenders after acquiring Aaron Rodgers. Now, for our next 3 games, we will be facing the Kansas City Chiefs twice in the span of 3 weeks. Now, to start off, we'll be traveling to Arrowhead Week 6. That's going to be on a short week on Thursday Night Football. So it's already going to be a challenge having to go to Kansas City to face off against the defending Super Bowl champions with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones on defense. They've got an elite offensive line. They can run the football. The Chiefs can get at you in so many different ways. As Broncos country well knows, we have not beaten that team in the Patrick Mahomes era. And here's hoping that this year with Russell Wilson hopefully bouncing back to his closer to old self and with Sean Payton at the helm, that we can finally get that monkey off our back and beat the Chiefs this season. But I don't know if that's going to happen at Arrowhead on a short week. So this may be our 15th straight loss, I believe it is, against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's rough, but I don't see us beating the Chiefs at Arrowhead on a short week. But you never know, man. The last time the Denver Broncos did beat the Chiefs was on a Thursday night at Arrowhead in 2015, Week 2. It was on that Jamal Charles fumble that Bradley Roby scooped up and returned to the end zone. So you never know, man. You could very easily see this game maybe being an upset. Kansas City also has to be on a short week, of course, but I don't know, man. That's going to be a challenge. Then we've got the Packers at home. Jordan Love era officially begins in Green Bay. And this is going to be really interesting. The Packers are a team that is really embracing the youth movement. They made a lot of really good selections in the draft. This is going to be a really well-coached team, of course, with Matt LaFleur at the helm. So I don't know how this is going to match up with the Broncos in terms of the team, but definitely anytime the Packers face off against the Broncos, it's going to be a challenge. Then we've got Kansas City again, this time at home. This one will not be on prime time, but it will probably still be on the marquee afternoon window, assuming that Denver gets off to a strong start, which I could see them doing here, you know? I could reasonably see them beating the Raiders. I can see them beating Washington. I think they may struggle against Miami, but I could easily see them beating the Bears. Jets may be a bit of a challenge, and the Chiefs may be a bit of a challenge that first time around, but then they could probably easily come back and beat Green Bay. So that's what a 1, 2, 3, 4-3 start. So if we can enter this game against the Kansas City Chiefs Week 8 at 4-3, and if we go in there and beat them, we are at a 5-3 start to our season entering our bye week. And then we've got a really, really tough stretch of games here. 3 games. We've got Buffalo on Monday Night Football on the road. It's going to be Von Miller, of course, up against his old team. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. That team's always going to be difficult. Then we return home on Week 11 to face off against Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Then we stay home again, and we're going to face off against Deshaun Watson and the Browns. So that's going to be a really tough 3-game stretch there for the Denver Broncos coming out of their bye. So this game against Kansas City here, Week 8, is going to be really crucial for us. If we can somehow sneak a win here against the Chiefs, that'll give us a hell of a lot of confidence entering our bye week at 5-3, entering this really tough 3-game stretch here. Then we're going to be at Houston, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, the number 2 and number 3 overall pick, DeMeco Ryans as their head coach. I think that's going to be a really big challenge. The Broncos, of course, flirted with DeMeco Ryans this past offseason, so I'm really interested to see how DeMeco is going to play Sean Payton and this Broncos offense. We've always struggled historically against that 49ers defensive scheme that DeMeco is going to be running, so I don't think this Houston game is going to be as big of a cakewalk for the Denver Broncos as as you may think. Then we've got the Chargers twice in the span of 4 games here. We're going to be on the road against the Chargers week 14 at SoFi Stadium, which generally is basically a home game for the Denver Broncos. Anytime we go on the road to face the Chargers, the stadium's always filled with orange. Then we're going to be on the road again against Jared Goff and Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, a team that's expected to take a big step forward this season. Obviously, they went on that big winning streak to close out last year and upset the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau to finish out the year, even though they missed out on the playoffs. So this Detroit game, man, is going to be a really difficult one and another big litmus test for the Denver Broncos. Chargers as well, not going to be a cakewalk at all, but we have not gotten swept by the Chargers since 2010. I don't foresee that changing here. Then we've got the New England Patriots. This is going to be another primetime game here. This one's going to be on Christmas Day. Or is this going to be on... No, this one's going to be on NFL Network. This is going to be like one of those Saturday games, it appears. So they may flex this one into prime time depending on how the team's doing, or it may be an afternoon game. But this one here at home against the New England Patriots, anytime Bill Belichick comes into town, it's a big challenge. Mac Jones at quarterback. It's going to be really interesting to see how the team matches up against this Patriots squad. These are both boom or bust teams, the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. Both of these teams could be really good by the time they face off here in Week 16, or they could be really bad. So by the time we roll around closer to October, we should know if this will actually be a primetime game or not. Then we've got 2 divisional games to close out the year. Chargers at home. Always a challenge for the Chargers coming into Denver. Justin Herbert is 0-3 at Mile High. So here's hoping that will move down to 0-4 and the Chargers will come out of Denver with an L. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will be bookending our season with the Raiders on the road this time at Las Vegas. So, Broncos country, there we go. That is the official schedule breakdown for the Denver Broncos. How many wins do you guys see here on this slate? I definitely think we could easily hit double-digit wins, but at the end of the day, it all depends on how Russell Wilson plays and how much Sean Payton can get out of this Denver Broncos roster. But I'm curious, guys, how many wins do you guys see? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. And while you're at it, guys, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL for continuing Broncos coverage. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.